Let's go ahead and open the cert file if you're done with this example file. File, open. This one is the Sunpath. Yeah, I'll do it my way. Didn't work. Sunpath is the only component that there are, I think, 3 tutorials for it on YouTube. I think that's the only one that I did a full tutorial. And the reason I did it is because kind of it's my favorite component still. I try not to talk about it that much, assuming you can watch that tutorial 1. Let me make sure everybody can hear me now. Here on the, okay, they should. Go in, go on the side. One thing is that. The other thing is probably you will figure it out, and it's a really similar logic to all the other stuff that I showed to you. So we just opened the file 03, which is Sunpath. So the same stuff. You want to draw the Sunpath. Let me first talk about the Sunpath component. We can go backward. So when you look at it, it's a huge component, right? But again, you go on the right, you check. The only thing that you need is location. Everything else is basically optional or has a default value. And you see in many Ladybug components, there are so many outputs. And at some point, probably you think like, why you need even all these outputs? But it gives you the flexibility of doing what you really want to do, you know. And I have seen people doing so many stuff just because having all these outputs. And I'll try to show you some of the uses when we talk about sunlight hours in an hour or so. Or hopefully if I can help myself not talk about Sunpath that much in half an hour. To create a location, you have different ways. So the only thing that you need is a location. And location, what location means is if you go here, the first Ladybug, you can see I love New York. So this is what that lets you create a location. This is what a location means in Honeybee, in Ladybug. The location name, the latitude, longitude, time zone, and elevation. And again, the only ones that you really need is the latitude and location name. I think even location name you don't need it. I forgot to change it. Location name has an input value as unknown location. But the only thing that you need is latitude. If you don't input the rest of values, it just assumes 0. And latitude is the most critical input. Like, it doesn't mean the longitude doesn't change the Sunpath. It does change the Sunpath. So it's not the most critical. Many times you don't find an EPW weather file for a location that you're working, right? You get a location somewhere that you can't even pronounce the name, and that location is in the middle of somewhere that there is no airport around or something. So you don't find an EPW file. So this is the component that you can use to create a location, right? Or you want to do a really fast test, you use this to create a location. But usually what you can do, and we will see why that thing is more helpful, is you go ahead and use EPW file and use import EPW file component, and it has an output for location. You see, this is the output for location. So go ahead and select the file, and as you see here, I changed it. Now it's not open something. It's the Grasshopper native component. Right click here, set one file path, and select your weather file wherever it is. And by now I assume if you go inside the folder, you don't get confused. You know you can select an EPW file. So you don't select the stat file, you don't select the DDY file, you select an EPW file. You open the file, you connect it to the EPW, and now so many things will go on because everything is connected. Oh, this one is not connected. So good. So go ahead and right click on annual hourly data and disconnect it. Disconnect all. Right click. Okay, because I have nothing connected, that thing doesn't show up, but you should have it disconnect and then select disconnect all. Everyone is following? Disconnect all. And go disconnect legend parameters. You're fine, Ali? Yes? Okay, awesome. So now if you go ahead and connect the location to the location input, wow, it shouldn't take this long. So you get, oh, I forget to disconnect the rest. So it will draw a Sunpath for you. Just if you connect the location, you will have the Sunpath, and then you can go to perspective view. You can go to perspective view, and you see all these suns. And as you can see, because I pressed Control M last time, I have all this mesh lines preview, so I just press Control M again, so it goes away. There are so many things happening because everything is connected. So go ahead, disconnect this initial points, disconnect this one. Disconnect this one too. So I disconnected everything from the back. So what you can see here, it's a Sunpath, but you have so many hours plotted, right? Because what I did is I connected multiple inputs, and multiple inputs is already connected for month and hours, which shouldn't be really connected. So just go ahead and disconnect everything. We're going backward this time. I showed you the end of the game. And now, so this is where we should start. So you should have a Sunpath. You just connect the location, and it gives you a Sunpath. It tells you this is a Sunpath diagram. This is for this latitude. This is 21st of December. This is the altitude. This is the azimuth. And you can see the sun, right? Let's check the outputs. So the outputs of the Sunpath is sun vector, altitude, azimuth, right? It gives me the sun sphere, which is this one, and yellow. It gives me the legend, which in this case is these lines here. It gives me the legend base point that I can play. I show you why the legend base point is useful. It gives me the Sunpath center point, the sun position, and all that stuff. And what I can do is I can go ahead and draw a line, for example, between the center point and the sun position. So go ahead, double click, type line, and select the second one. I connect the center point to the position, and it gives me this line. I mean, if you want this plane to go, press F7, so it goes away. It's a better visualization, I think. So now I have the sun, I have this line, and I have this vector. Do you have a question? So your EPW file is not opening. So you have a, can you type panel and just connect this to this? What can you read there? Can you read anything? It ends with EPW? Okay. Let me. And what? Okay, so maybe you have a balloon here. It tells you let the ladybug fly, right? You need to let the ladybug fly first, right? Okay, how do you make it fly? You just tell her fly. So you just bring this from here to here. So now Ladybug is flying. And to make sure, you just bring a panel, right? And connect it here. It should say hi and then say this thing is flying. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We will get there. So is it flying? Okay, it says views. Okay. Believe me, it's flying. But But the reason you can't see it is because the order of execution, right? So this component executed before Ladybug was flying. So now Ladybug is flying, but the component doesn't know. So let the component know, and how you do it is one way is just connect this thing again. And now Ladybug is flying, so you should be fine. Yes? Okay. Woo-hoo-hoo. So the other way was if you have multiple, if sometimes it happens that you open a file and you have multiple files turned orange and all of them say, hey, Ladybug is not flying. So what you can do is bring the Ladybug down to the canvas. So it means now it's flying. Press, select all, press Control E, which is basically enable, disable, E as enable, and press Control E again. It will enables everything. And this time, because Ladybug is already flying, you should be fine. The other way is you select all, everything, and then right click and say enable or disable. You know, you just go back and forth. So now you have the Sunpath component here. We have a single hour. We can do cool stuff like animating the slider, right, like everything else. So I just connect, instead of a single value for the hour, I connect the slider here. So now I can go every single hour, and you know, I can see the sun is changing. I can basically animate this, export all these images, all this stuff, right? So this is a normal Sunpath that we always have. But this is a key point. Sunpath is actually a diagram for annual hourly data, right? It's similar to what we did for the wind. For every hour you have a value for the wind speed. If you have a value for every location of the sun for every hour and then draw it, that's Sunpath. So Sunpath is an hourly graph too, which means you can plot the other data, the other hourly data on top of the Sunpath. Because in any location, there is a temperature. In any location, there is a radiation. In any location, there is an hour, right? All that stuff. So that's when one of these outputs are coming handy. So if you go and check, there is one output which tells you sun position information. Detailed information for each sun position on the Sunpath, including dates and time. Thank you, Chris Mackey. So I don't remember what it was, but like it makes sense what it is, right? So just use that. What you can do is you can, let's first go and do it in a normal way. I just double click here, type text 3D tag, text, and there should be here, text tag 3D. Insert this one. So what this component does, it lets you preview text in a location. So what you need is location and text. The location is going to be the sun position, right? Wherever the sun is, I want the data to be there. So I can connect sun position as the location input. And then the text is going to be the sun position information. So I connect this thing here and this thing here, you can't see nothing, right? If you move around, you can see something. But the way to do it easier is you just click here and zoom. It doesn't work. It should zoom to this text like this. Then I see, okay, this is not the right scale. So there is an input for the scale. I just change the scale to 3. So now this is 21st of December 15, right? Now if I go here and change the hour, let me change the scale crazy so we can see it when I even zoom out. If I go here and change the hour, I can see for every single hour when it's changing, I can see the information coming with my sun, right? But it's not good, you know, it's basically, it's projected to the XY plane. It's not projected to my camera. When I change the view, it doesn't show me, like I can't read it. If this is the view, I can't really read this. This is not useful. There is a component in in Ladybug calls orient to camera, and I'm so excited about another component that Andrew Human is developing for his component called Human, which basically makes it even way easier and more elegant. But we don't have it here and we don't have time to install it, but you guys should check that thing out. So what you can do, there is a component that helps you to project this thing to your camera. So what I can do is I pass the location, which is Sunpath position, through this component, and then I use the output of this for the location. So instead of passing the point as the location, I pass the sun position here, and then I pass this thing as the location. And what happened is, now it's just watching the camera. Everybody following? What? I just passed the sun position here, oriented to camera here, and the scale. So now you see this, but watch what will happen. If I move this, it doesn't move with me, because this component doesn't know that I'm changing the view, which is something which is a limitation of my code. Like, it should actually know. And Andrew will solve this issue. Like, his component will solve this issue. But what you can do is you can connect the timer. What timer does is you can connect the timer to a component, and it will re-execute that component every whatever time that you put. For example, this thing is 1 second, and it's already disabled. If you right-click and enable this, so now every 1 second it will update this component. So if I move around, you see it just moves with me, the information that I have. But you remember what I said? I said this is an hourly data. So I know this is 21st of December at 2, and it's not that much of information. It's basically what Sunpath does. So for example, what else you want to know? For example, I want to know what is the temperature at this time. So what should I do? Exactly what you used to do. So there is an input here for annual hourly data. Just go and connect the temperature to annual hourly data. So dry bulb temperature connected to annual hourly data. So now it says 21st of December at 2, the temperature in Chicago is, no, it's not Chicago. In San Francisco is 13.3 centigrade. I was like, oh, Chicago, so warm. It changed so much. And I don't know how much is 13 in Fahrenheit. I'm trying hard to learn this thing, but believe me, it's really hard. 13.3, 55.94. So go ahead. You're talking about vector, right? We have it as an output here, which is a sun vector. And let's go ahead, because you asked, and visualize that vector. So double click here and type vector. And should we select this one, or just select the simple one, vector display? And what this thing does, a vector is a little bit hard to visualize, but you can use this component to visualize it. For the A, anchor, use the sun position. And for the V, use the sun vector. And you should be able to see this vector. This is not a good visualization. Let's use the advanced ones. I didn't want to get to that, but, and this thing changed a little bit. Point, vector, color, width of the vector. Okay. So again, I double clicked vector, and I use vector display EX, which is extra probably. I don't know what EX stands for. So I delete that. I connect the sun position as the point. I collect the sun vector as sun vector. And then this is the color, which is black by default. And then width of the vector line, let's make it like 20. It doesn't really help that much. I think if I zoom out, so this is the vector, and I'm pretty sure there is a way to scale this. Maybe if I multiply the vector with a number like 12, maybe it uses the length of the vector for the length of the vector. Here we go. So, okay. So what you need to do, I multiplied the vector with a number 12 just to scale the length. The output is unitized. The output of some vector here is unitized. So I just multiplied with a number. But this is not the way people usually do it in Grasshopper. There is a component for that. It's, yes, amplitude. This does the same thing. So if you want, you can connect your vector and you can connect your scale, like I'm doing 12 here. And then you can use the output of this vector. And now if I change the scale, it changes the scale of this vector. Now I can preview on this, right? And then I can get rid of my line. Sorry, I'm doing so many things at the same time. Okay, one by one. I wanted to visualize the vector. What I did, double-clicked, I typed vector EX, display EX, right, which is this component. It asks me for a point and a vector. For the point, I used some position because that's the start point of my vector. And for the vector, I used my sum vector. Then, and you see like how you think in Grasshopper, I'm not a frequent user of this component, so I didn't know what is the inputs of this component. So I just checked and I saw, okay, my vector is not the right size. And I thought, okay, probably it uses the length of my vector for the length of this vector. So I used the other component, which is amplitude for the vector, to change the size of my vector. And then I use this vector as the output. So now I have the some vector showing me. So now if I change the hour, everything goes together, right? Oops. When it changes to orange, basically means the sun is not anymore there, right? Nighttime. So this is how it works. Now you can see the sun and you have a vector connected. But, okay, this is cool, but again, like you don't want to have a single hour. You want to have, so we have now the sun position. We were able to plot a data on top of it, which was the temperature, but it's only a single hour. It doesn't help that much. So what if we want to have it for the whole day of 21st of December? So what you need to do, this series generates the numbers between 1 and 24, which is all the hours that you have during the day. So I just connect this thing to the hour. And what will happen now is it will draw all the sun positions for all the hours, and it will plot the temperature. So now I have a Sunpath which has a legend here, which tells me the temperature changes between 809 to 13.3. And for each point, if I zoom in, I can see the color and I can see the information. And now you see the scale is a little bit big, so I can go back here and change the scale to the right size. So now not only I know where the sun is, but I know how much temperature I have. Again, let's go back to the usefulness of all these diagrams. So what Sunpath is good for is mainly to know where the sun is, and we usually use this data, like one of the simplest things that we always used to do is to design a shading, right? How do you design a shading in a normal way? Is you find your cutting days, and how you find that time? You go look at your weather data. You say, okay, there are different ways, definitely. If you watch that, I will email you too. There is a really good paper about that. But let's say you can use heating degree days and cooling degree days. You can use cutting temperature. For now, let's use the cutting temperature. We say when the temperature is between this range. So you find that numbers. When you found that numbers, what do? You go draw your Sunpath. When you draw your Sunpath, what do? You go find the angle of the vector of the sun. Based on that, you go and define your horizontal angle, what they call it, HSA, horizontal solar angle, VSA. And when you get that two number, you calculate the depth of your shading. How many of you have really done that? And how long does it take to do that? It's just like a painful process that you don't really want to go through. So now that we have all the data integrated here, probably we can do that, right? So let's go ahead and instead of just, excuse me, instead of just plotting December, let's plot the whole year. How you do that? Well, that might be crazy because of just the time. Just let's only do the 21st of all the month. So for the hour, I do all the hours. And as you can see, I didn't say, but you could see like the component already gets rid of the hours, the night hours. So you can just pass 1 to 24 and it will take care of that. For the day, it's already 21st. Leave that thing at 21st. And then for the month, I use this component which generates the values between 1 to 12. I connect it to the month. And now I got for all the 21st of the month, and it gets a little bit so much information there. But just let's leave it like that. If you want, we can change the scale. And you see this timer is still working, so whenever I move, everything updates. So I just make this thing a little bit smaller, and it's fine. So now, you know what I want to talk about, right? We want to talk about, I want the sun positions when the temperature is between a range. But is temperature the only thing that we consider for shading? The answer is no, I help you. So what else we consider? Certain angle. No, we want to shade that angle, but what we use based on the weather data to say we should shade right now. When do you move to a shade when you're walking outside? Radiation. So I just get rid of this view vector because it's so much. So now I have temperature on top of this, but I need radiation too. Just go and select global horizontal radiation. You know, you have different outputs, and it's totally up to you. Like if you're designing for outdoor, if you're designing for indoor, if you want to say, I only care about normal radiation. There are basically best practice approaches, but there is no reason you do that. You solve your problem. So before doing anything, think what is your problem. The circle that I showed last time, like the main thing is understand your problem first before putting any script on Grasshopper. If you don't know what is the question, these things are, I'm sorry, but these things are useless, kind of. And I'll be in the studio, so I'll ask you. You know, there's no way. So select the radiation, global horizontal radiation, press shift, and connect it to annual hourly data. So what happened is if you zoom out, you have two Sunpaths now. So the one on the right shows the radiation. And the one on the left shows the temperature. You can go ahead and connect like 20, like whatever. If you connect wind, you will get another Sunpath and it will be colored based on the wind. Right? So now we're kind of good. We have enough information. And as you can see here, I have a conditional statement which says, give me the sun positions when the temperature is more than 18 and the radiation is more than 240. This number 240 is not really the best number to use actually. But like for now, let's go ahead. I think like last time I did San Francisco too. So you select the number based on your location. How do you find these numbers? You go look on the comfort standard that you want to use. And based on that comfort, there is a range. Use that range. And that range can totally change based on the comfort that you're using and based on the area that you're designing. That's not something that we want to cover now, right? But that's something that I assume you go ahead and learn yourself if you don't know already. So just connect this as conditional statement. And what will happen is it will go ahead and basically get rid of all the other sun positions and gives me the sun positions that satisfies the condition. And this is San Francisco. It gets like so many points down here too. I don't want, so my shading is going to be really deep, but whatever. So if you have somewhere else, you're doing Riyaz, it will be like, you get all the Sunpaths, right? Congratulations. So, So probably you want to put something that this number of vectors not to go crazy because we don't want to wait for the calculation, right? Just change the number. But this is the concept. So now what I have is this sum vectors. I'm good to go. Because I have these sum vectors, I can design the shadings. There is like another thing, I think, down here for the shadings, right? This is where we design the shadings. And what I want you to do is to press Control E on this Sunpath component here and all the stuff that I did, right? So this one should be deactivated. I press Control E, but you can select this and press this one, disable, right? Go ahead and do what we did right now down here. 3:31. You have how many minutes you want? 5 again? Go ahead and we will see how it goes. So what I want you to do is find the right weather file, bring the data in, draw the Sunpath. On top of the Sunpath, I want you to generate the data for 21st of all the month for all the hours, and I want you to map temperature and radiation on top of the Sunpath. And then I want you to apply the conditional statement. And if you don't remember how to do it, this is how you should do it. And if you need more than 5 minutes, that's fine. So we're talking about this one, right? Down here. Not this one. This one down here. And here for you if you want to cheat.